Welcome in to your Saturday edition of College Football Action Plan presented by NukeTheHouse.com. This is your host, Dan Moneyline Miller, along with my expert analysis here, Ray Greyfox. How we doing, Ray? Good to see you this week.
Couldn't be better, Dan. We're here live from Pulaski County, Virginia. Not a place I frequent often. It's a rival of the Blacksburg Bruins, whose gear I'm wearing now. Here for oldest son Fox's wedding last night. It was a lovely affair. I want to congratulate the bride and groom. It was a beautiful, beautiful affair here in Pulaski County. We are here at the Jackson Park Inn. I had to check the stationery, Dan. The Jackson Park Inn. Highly recommend to stay here. Beautiful spot. We have a few shout outs today. I'll get into that later in the show. Good to be with you, Dan. Exciting as we push our way into the midpoint of the NCAA football season.
Yeah, diving into week 6 card. We have a lot of games to get through here. So I just want to, again, thank you guys for listening and tuning into us each and every week. We really appreciate it. Hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. Get us following, get you following. It'll be, the more notifications you get, it helps us out. It helps you out become a better. So we're up a lot of units this week. I know the boys were on Atlanta, I know, in the Thursday night football game. So you really want to hit that subscribe button. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into today's game. We have on the dock 12 p.m. EST, Missouri taking on Texas A&M. Texas A&M is a 2.5-point favorite here, total 47. Is Missouri a real team here, Ray, or is this the biggest test of the season for Missouri? Let's just start there.
I think it is. We just spoke briefly backstage about this. Missouri and Mizzou both struggled mightily in their SEC openers. Both elected to play a soft schedule going into the season with non-conference competition well below the belt. Both looked very sound, obviously, against that lesser competition. And when both stepped into SEC play, the wake-up call was issued. The bell was rang. Mizzou struggled with Vandy, winning in overtime. We know Vandy. I mean, there's a tough, we know them as a basement bottom SEC team, but here they are. They take Virginia Tech to overtime. They beat them. They take Missouri to overtime. They lose. Vandy team's pretty fun for being as bad as everybody says they are. This game here, Dan, Mizzou at Texas A&M. I have the same numbers that you have. Mizzou is off a bye, so they played that Vandy game 2 weeks ago. So for those of you that handicap on an off-bye basis, Mizzou will be off the bye here. Last time here, Missouri was plus 3.5 and won 34-27, piled up 587 yards to Texas A&M's 341. Missouri 3-1 straight up, 4-0 against the spread in SEC road games last year. I might need to repeat that. Missouri 4-0 against the spread in SEC road games last year. So here we are. We're back on the road for Mizzou. In College Station here. One of my fellow coaches from the Blacksburg Mike team, he is a Mizzou grad. His dad is an A&M grad. Big shout out to Matt. I hope you're enjoying yourself with your dad. They're in College Station, a father-son affair. 2-2 this series straight up since Mizzou joined the SEC, and A&M has won 5 of 6 or had won 5 of 6 between 0-2 and 11 in this series. The last meeting was at Mizzou, 2021, A&M on top there, 35-14, and they were 11-point favorites there as well. No opinion on this game. My line, actually, this is really strange ratings-wise because Mizzou would clearly be the ratings favorite at this point. But again, if you're keeping ratings or rating college teams in any way, shape, or form, you have to allot for who they play, okay? So if we just put in Missouri's numbers versus Vandy, they would not have a 17.87 rating. Now, I'm not saying Missouri isn't up to that rating, and at the end of the year may even be close to that rating. But, again, my ratings would say, hey, Mizzou should be a favorite here at A&M. But A&M having played the tougher schedule, this is a non-bet for me, Dan. I look for a really good football game here. A&M pass rush may give Mizzou some trouble in this one. No opinion here, but suspicious. The A&M 2.5-point favorite. Again, I won't label it a trap game because they don't exist, but this is a good one. I didn't bet it, but I think this is going to be a very good contest today at noon in College Station.
Yeah, I mean, again, you don't have to bet on every game. We're just trying to give you here a lot of angles from expert analysis and stuff like that with numbers to back it up too. We're also not, willy-nilly picking games here. So going on the next game here we have, Ray, is the Pittsburgh playing against North Carolina. This is one of my viewers' favorite bets, one of my father's favorite bets this week. Thank you for listening, Mr. Miller and Mrs. Miller. Thank you very much. I always appreciate you guys listening. He loves Pittsburgh in this spot, Ray, laying the 2.5 points. What's your thoughts on that? The buyback on North Carolina is plus 114 on the money line on DraftKings, total 63 here. Do you think Mr. Miller is correct on this one?
If you think there's any way, Dan, that I'm going to argue with Mr. Miller in this spot, you're absolutely out of your mind. Mr. Miller, big shout, big love. Thank you for watching. It is an absolute pleasure working with Dan every week. It is the joy of my week. Glad that you're joining us to watch. Mr. Miller might be happy to know I've got Pitt as a 14.72 in my ratings. UNC is a 2.57. So the ratings obviously scream Pittsburgh in this game. And he may be aware of this, I'm sure, if he's already fired on them. Pitt is off the bye. So the off the bye bias is in play here. And again, I think that's really big. And I'll talk about it a little more in the next game we cover, which is a military academy game. But, you know, that off the bye bias, it really is big because you get a week essentially to work on things that now you know your team's struggling with. Yes, they all have summer camp, but we go through summer camp and everybody thinks they're going unbeaten. Everybody thinks they're winning the conference. They think they have all their technique down. They think they have all their, you know, the way their offense is going to run, their defense is going to run. But you get that bye week and you get a chance to not only clean up what you're lacking in, but you also get that extra few days to prepare for the opponent, which is massive. In this series, Pitt, don't flinch here, Mr. Miller. I want you to keep your play in play. Pitt is 0-7 in Chapel Hill, 1-6 against the number. So for any of you out there that want to fade that Pitt position, there that'll give you a reason. They do struggle in Chapel Hill. The dog is 0-4 against the spread in this series. So that one kind of flips back to the Pitt side, right? Pitt is a 2.5-point favorite.
Mm-hmm.
UNC is 7-3 against the spread versus Pitt in ACC meetings. So, and the over is 8-3 in the series with an average of 58 points per game. So that, you know, you can see here the odds makers aren't asleep at the switch. They put it at 63. The average in the series is 58. So again, they didn't have to think or leap far. They're expecting points. The series history shows points, and you know, that's, to me, I like the. I'm gonna agree with my co-host's father on this one. Do not have any action on it myself. It is my roots, the Steel City. So I have no reason to argue with that play here, Dan.
Yeah, good analysis there. I mean, like I said, with Pittsburgh having trouble beating North Carolina in the past, that don't get too caught up in recency bias. I think, you know, a lot of bettors love to look at those numbers and kind of make their bet prediction on that. But Pittsburgh's looked pretty good this year, and North Carolina has kind of looked pretty sluggish after that JMU game. I can say that. Onyx here is on Duke first half money line. Ray, do you like that bet?
First half money line for who?
Duke.
Let me see.
Duke is playing. Let me quickly. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Got hit with a curveball. Duke is playing Georgia Tech tonight. Duke is a 9.5-point underdog. Total 53 here. But Onyx is on the first half money line. Do you like that play, Ray? Playing Georgia.
You know, this is a game I kind of leaned a little Georgia Tech's way. I think the Duke rating with the odds maker might be a little bit overcooked after the comeback win last week in their rivalry game against playing, I think, for the Victory Bell, playing against North Carolina. North Carolina in that game held a 20-0 lead, and Duke came back to beat them 21-0 or 21-20 there in Durham. I'm a little biased in this game on Georgia Tech, but I wouldn't argue that. I mean, Duke's playing hot right now. They're coming off obviously a strong close against their biggest rival. So I'm riding the hot hand, I think, there. I'm definitely not gonna buck you there.
All right. So we got confirmation that we kind of like that play. We can go either way with that one. But again, going back to the Pittsburgh thoughts, I just want to, you know, coming off a bye in college football is really important. Like you said, that they fix the things that they really need to fix in the season. And it's you get healthy, right? I mean, it's that extra week to really get healthy, and with a lot of substitutions in college football, you find that the bye really helps a team out. So again, that's pointing towards Pittsburgh here. Now the next game here on the dock here, Ray, is a Naval Academy game. Well, it is a Naval Academy, military academy games. We have Navy, a 10-point favorite on the road to face Air Force. Total 37 here. Ray, what do you like in this game?
Do have a play here for those of you that take time to read our college football articles. You want to go to nukethehouse.com. You want to go to NCAA football, select articles. You will see an article on this game where we did have a position, and I'm going to go ahead and talk about it. A lot of times I want y'all to go ahead and read the article, and I hope that you do read the article. We jumped this game Sunday at the open at Navy -8. Currently sits, as Dan said, Navy is -10 with a low total as to be expected in a military academy game. And, this is another key one here. These military academy games, they obviously run very similar styles. They're obviously very familiar opponents as they play each other every year. Both teams are going to want to grind the ball, grind the clock. My ratings here, the odds maker obviously is taking into account the fact that these two teams have great familiarity. What you'll find in military academy games is there's no portal, okay? There's no NIL money. It's real football. It's great college football. These are some of my favorite games of the year. I'm sort of a traditionalist in the sport. Don't get me wrong. I like seeing the 54-50 games too, but this is real football. These guys are going to be officers for the United States Navy and the Air Force. As upon graduation, they'll serve 5 years serving all the bettors out there, keeping our freedoms and allowing us to bet the beautiful sport of college football. I want to say good morning, Daniel Barry, Sports Highlights. What's up? Navy at Air Force. Navy is currently at 10, so we grabbed that 8. That was a good buy. We beat the closing number. I'm not a big guy. You want to always get the best of the number, right? There's no question about that. But I don't really overreact to that. I don't brag on it or anything. Sometimes I go the other way. In this case, we bought a great number. And there is a little bit of recency to this series that might have Navy a little bit fired up coming to this one. 4 straight losses to the Falcons, Air Force Academy Falcons. So Navy's probably a little bit kind of looking to avenge that a little bit. And I always tell people, anytime you see any one of these 3 games, okay, so you have Navy at Air Force, Army at Air Force, and then Army Navy. One's played the first Saturday in October, one's played the first Saturday in November, and the last is played on the second Saturday, I think, in December. That's the Army-Navy game. That's a standalone game. Again, most of this is covered in the article. Take a look at the article on nukethehouse.com. I always tell people when you see an opening total here in these military academy games, try to grab the under. It rarely ever goes up. I promise you that. And usually these games will drop almost 3 points from the open to the game time number. Under 9-2-1 here, 9-2-1 since 2012. And the last 3 between Navy and Air Force have averaged 24 points. So current total I saw was 37. It's pretty close to the opener, I think. Actually, this one didn't move too much. The big kicker here for me was I've got a ratings advantage on Navy. I think Navy's a much better team. Air Force, and this is where you see it, right? Because you get turnover. There's no portal. There's no NIL. So you can't reach out and grab guys when your recruiting classes are a bit thin, or you're coming off a senior-laden roster. This year, Air Force brings back 6 returning starters. I think Navy has 14 to 16 returning. So that's always going to be a big factor in military academy games. Again, there's nowhere to go to strengthen. It's just the way the classes fall. So Air Force, 6 returning starters here. That's a big factor for me in siding with Navy. I will say this, Troy Calhoun from Air Force, fantastic football coach. So you're always going to have to beat the best when you go against Air Force. And Air Force as well, I talked about they won 4 straight. They are on a 6-2 against the spread run in the series. So Navy, I think, has the better team today. They've obviously got the chip on their shoulder after losing 4 straight. They face an Air Force team with not a ton of experience, which is big in military academy games. So myself and Nuke The House Elites Premier subscribers grab this at -8. I would still recommend to buy at 10. If for any reason it slips over 10, I don't really like that because, this could honestly be a 17-0 Navy win here. So I'm not too crazy about anything over 10, but I love the 8 that we got. I don't mind the 10. So go out there and get after it. Watch this game if you get a chance, folks. Military Academy games, there's nothing like them. The respect between opponents is ridiculous, but the way they play, the fire that they play each other with is as good or better than any Alabama, Auburn, or any of the great rivalries. So I look forward to this one today from Colorado Springs, Dan.
Yeah, the atmosphere is so pure. I mean, right? You got the Naval Academy going against, Air Force. How better, how much more American can you get, right? I mean, it's just a great atmosphere. And I also want to talk about this, right? Blake Horvath, the Navy quarterback. People think that, it's going to be a run and gun kind of game. They've actually been passing the ball quite well, this Navy team. So, I mean, I wouldn't be too focused on the run in this game. I think Navy can open up a little bit on this passing game and expose Air Force. And I like, I really like Navy to win this game and cover the 10 too. I'm on that game.
Just to jump in the comments here real quick, Dan, we got Best Pie Eater. A great follow, by the way, on Twitter. In my opinion, one of the best hockey handicappers out there. He's a truly under the radar hockey handicapper. Ethan at Best Pie Bets on Twitter. If you like to bet hockey, or if you don't want to cap it and you want somebody to caps it really, really good, see Ethan over on Twitter. He'll kick you a few plays here and there. He's talking about some crazy line movement there. It was 9.5 minus 118 on FanDuel 20 minutes ago. Now it's at 10.5. So again, at 10.5, just because of the nature of this game, this is not a game where somebody wants to come out and win 59-0, folks. I mean, this game gets 17-0, 24-0. They're probably going to pump the brakes a little bit. So careful on the 10.5. If you get it, if you grab that 9.5, even better. But just keep an eye on that one, folks. Ethan bringing up a great point. That line's jumping around a bit.
Yeah, and great point, Ethan. Thank you for chiming in. And if you want to also subscribe to us on YouTube and Twitter, and also subscribe to us on the nukethehouse.com. Become a member there. It'd be really helpful. We love you. We love everyone who comes along. Everyone could be a good bettor if you follow nukethehouse.com. It's just what the reality is. Thank you for all the comments. Going on to the next game here, we have Iowa facing Ohio State on DraftKings. Ohio State is a 17-point favorite, total 45.5. Do you think we're going to see a lot of defense in this game, Ray?
Oh, I would hope so. If we don't, there's probably the entire second units are in for both teams if we don't see defense in this game. Couple quick shout outs. Obviously, we talked about the Blacksburg Bruin football team, Blacksburg High School. So we went through a really bad swoon, traditionally a really strong program. My son's about to join that program next year as he wraps up his middle school season. But they won their first district game in 5 years. And I know that's kind of laughable. This is a team that went 3 years without a win. And, we're forming committees to fix that. And we are in the process. We have a great head coach in Zach Leonard. We're going to turn things around on the high school level. But winning their first district game, and I actually think they're going to win a couple more straight here. They have a few opponents that they can beat on the slate. Blacksburg Middle, back-to-back, Dan. They come back wins for this BMS Bruin team. Down 14-0 last week. They win 58-22. They were down 20-9 at the 5-minute mark of the fourth. They win the game 21-20 against Glenver. So both Blacksburg teams are rolling, looking to continue that. Jordan and Spencer from work, along with Marquise. Jordan and Spencer are two work knuckleheads, Dan. But when I was writing out the card for this week, they were there throwing in their 2 cents. They want the Ball State game covered and all that, But a couple of knuckleheads, always enjoy hanging out with those guys at work. They make you laugh. Marquise will have a 10-game parlay going today, I'm sure, Dan, along with probably a couple 6-gamers. And he will not watch the show because all he's going to hear from me is stop making parlay bets. Couple of shout-outs I wanted to get taken care of there. We're on Iowa, Ohio State, a defensive battle. Iowa is off the bye if you're looking at that kind of stuff. Ratings here, Ohio State right now, 36.49 in my ratings. Again, that's elevated. I mean, they may finish the season around 30, and if they do, I'm almost 100% sure they'll be unbeaten. Iowa's rating is dragging a bit this year, 5.11. So if you're a ratings better, there's a little advantage there. But again, I have a note next to this. This will come down every week. You'll see this Ohio State rating drop just a little bit based on quality of opponent. So when you see them playing an Iowa team, you're obviously, as Dan mentioned, you're going to see a defensive battle. You probably won't see the average Ohio State's 500 to 600 yard offensive output. last time they played here was in 2022, and Iowa held Ohio State, Dan, to 66 rushing yards. So that Iowa defense, as you mentioned, it's got teeth. I'm not sure if it's the first or second best defense in Iowa. Iowa State would have a say in that. I guarantee that. Iowa 3-1-1 against the spread since 2009 versus the Buckeyes. So Iowa tends to play good against the number, but as we can see here, the number is generally pretty big. And this is probably one of the better Iowa teams in recent memory. Ohio State has won 16 of the last 19 in this series. 5 of the last 6 have gone over the total. So that's, this year with you see the odds makers not sleep at switch again. A total of 46, which is probably one of the lower totals of this recent history. But 5 of the last 6 have gone over, and it's just the last meeting was it was also in 2022. Ohio State held Iowa to 158 yards and 8 first downs. 8 first downs. So it's to me, you look for a defensive battle here in Columbus. I like this Ohio State team. I was talking to somebody this week, and I said, you're hearing all this talk about Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Texas. Really not a peep. I mean, I've really not even seen any national media attention put on Ohio State. I understand they're not a team that I don't think anybody's sleeping on them per se, but really quiet.
Blowing their bubble either. So
right. I look for this team to make the college football playoff. I look for them just in a look ahead. If you see any look ahead numbers against Michigan, I think Ohio State will handle Michigan mightily this year. So that's just a look ahead spot for me. No bet in the game here, Dan, but it does look to be a great game here in Columbus at noon.
Yeah, great points there, Ray. Again, you always want to look ahead spots because you never know. The number is going to move on you regardless of whether you like it or not. The number is going to move. So whether betting early college football is good, I would say, but it also doesn't always come down to the best number, right? I mean, it's good to have the best number, but just because you have the best number doesn't mean you always win. So going on to the next game here, Ray, we have Auburn facing Georgia. Georgia last week was upset by Kentucky. Georgia now a 21-point favorite here, Ray. Can Auburn keep this game close? We have a total of 51. You think Auburn can keep this one close?
So interestingly enough here, going to the ratings, 8.91 for Auburn, a 7.93 for Georgia for in my ratings. That's probably the lowest Georgia's rating has been, I'm going to guess, in 3 to 5 years. I don't even know. I wouldn't even know how far back to go.
I'm pretty sure this is the first time they're ranked lower than 4, I think, in like the last 3 or 4 years. So,
right.
To your point.
Yeah, I mean, it's to me, I think that rating will come up, Dan. I think the offense has to wake up a little bit, right? I mean, we saw it against Kentucky, a 13-12 winner in Kentucky. And then they get the bye week. They go to Alabama again, 2 weeks, the extra week to prepare, and they laid an absolute egg in the first half against Alabama. I think I suggested on Twitter at one point watching that game that Georgia that Kirby switched the quarterback, and somebody was like, "Are you mad, man? Like all you got behind him is unproven." And I was like, let me think. Let's go back and SEC. What is it? Alabama that had Jalen Hurts, and who was it behind him that had never done anything? And at halftime of an SEC title game, they jerked Jalen Hurts. They put in, I believe it was Tua, if I'm not mistaken, and they ran the slate in the second half. Listen, sometimes you got to do stuff to change the mo in games. If fortunately he stuck with a quarterback, which I guess was a logical thing to do. They came back, rallied, led at one point in the second half until the 17-year-old freshman wide receiver for Alabama ended the game down the sideline with a pretty acrobatic play. Again, I think this Georgia rating comes up. This is obviously a spot that if it's going to, you've got to see Georgia at some point throttle someone. If they really haven't done that in any quality opponents yet, right? They lost to Alabama. They 13-12 against Kentucky. So, I mean, yeah, they handled Clemson opening day, non-SEC game. So a good Clemson team. So see if they can get back to their winning ways here and right the ship a bit. Hugh Freeze for Auburn, 30-15 as a dog. I thought that was interesting, with 18 outright upsets. So I don't know how many times he's got an outright upset as a 21-point dog, but Hugh Freeze obviously in a good spot as a dog here. Auburn, interestingly enough, Dan, no home games in October. no home games in October. So they're obviously entering a tough stretch because it's going to be all SEC play, and they're going to be all on the road. So UGA is on a 9-2 against the spread run versus Auburn. So recency bias against the numbers with Georgia. And for you total bettors out there, the under is 12-5. 12-5 to the under in the last 17. Interestingly enough, Georgia has won their last 4 SEC home openers, which they have today as they played both their 2 previous SEC games, Kentucky and Alabama, on the road. No opinion here, big number. To Dan's point earlier, folks, the odds maker has to put a line on every single game. That's his job. A line on every single game. You do not have to bet every single game. So again, this is a great football game. I don't see any edge here. I didn't bet it. So just remember that, folks. But keep your discipline up, keep your bankroll management up. That's what keeps you afloat in this game. No opinion for me here. Should be a great one though, from between the hedges there in Athens.
Yeah, and I just want to correct myself. Kentucky did lose to Georgia, but Georgia hasn't come close to covering in these games. That's the point I wanted to make. They haven't even come close. So even giving them a 21-point spread, it's hard to stomach that as if you're a Georgia backer right now, because they haven't even come close to stiffing these spreads. So good points there, Ray. It's, I wanted to correct myself there. Going to the next game here is Ole Miss at South Carolina. Ole Miss was upset last weekend. I do know that. South Carolina, Ole Miss is a 10-point favorite this week, going on the road. 50 total here is 53. Do you think we're going to see another upset? Will South Carolina, the Gamecocks, get it done here?
Well, South Kakalaki is off a bye. Again, another ratings glitch, or what I refer to as a ratings glitch. Mississippi has a 33.08. South Carolina has an 11.28. South Carolina's rating probably more reflective of who they are. I don't know. I would expect they're going to finish the game. I think I handicapped them at about +5 to +7 this year. So I expect that to come down a little, but it's more realistic than Ole Miss's 33.08. And that was down from a 46 or something, I think we talked about last week before they dropped that game. Again, that rating, if they finish at a 33 rating, I would say they go unbeaten, but they're obviously not going to do that at this point. So again, you have to be careful when you're using ratings of any kind to not only see the rating, but see who the rating was accrued against. So what I'll do is I'll line a game, and then I'll say, okay, I'll list out Mississippi's opponents that they played, and I'll list out South Carolina's opponents, and I'll write every rating of each team that they played. And that gets you a total rating, essentially, of the competition that they've faced. And I'm going to talk about this briefly with Washington and Michigan later. But that's how you rate the rating is really what I'm saying, is you find out who they accrued that rating against and what kind of teams that they faced in order to get that rating. The better the competition, the more realistic or the more accurate the rating is. Under Kiffin, Mississippi 8-8 straight up, 7-8-1 against the spread in SEC games. Ole Miss will play 2 straight opponents off a bye. So they've got South Kakalaki off the bye this week, and then they go at Baton Rouge next week to face LSU off the bye. Folks, again, Mississippi's, now they're rolling into a regular SEC schedule. They're not going to get any breaks here. They're on the road at South Kakalaki. They face them off a bye. Then they face LSU off a bye. Tough stretch again, probably a rating leveler stretch that you'll see from Mississippi. I don't know that they come out of these 2 games over 30 in my ratings. 4 of the last 5 in this series have gone under the total. So if you're a total bettor here, 53 is the current total. 4 of the last 5 have gone under. Never been a fan, as I've said, of Shane Beamer. Once he found the Wake Forest game plan in Wakegate, pre-game, he found their entire game plan, script, the whole bit. The game they lost the game 6-3 in overtime. I just never been a Beamer guy, but he is doing good things. And I actually thought he was going to be under the knife here at South Carolina, but his recent results have certainly buoyed his life expectancy there for the Gamecocks. This one I think will be better than most think. Odds makers obviously waking up to the rating. If they had played this game last week, Mississippi probably would have been 21 or something. So look for a good one there and down in South Carolina.
Yeah, all good points there, Ray. Going up to the next game we have is Indiana facing Northwestern. Indiana, a 13-point favorite here, total 40. we're going to see some good weather here. A little windy, though. North of 15-mile-per-hour winds throughout the whole game. Ray, talk to me about this one.
Another bye bias. Northwestern here is off the bye and at home against a good Indiana team. This is one of the better Indiana teams that we've seen in a long, long while, Dan. I'm impressed with them. I've cashed a couple tickets on them already this year. This is not a spot for me to jump in. I saw 13-40 as I checked in pre-show. Interestingly enough, Dan, Indiana has not won here at Northwestern since 1993. They're on an 0-8 straight up and a 2-6 against the number run. So, you got weather, you got Northwestern. Northwestern's off a bye. Indiana's riding high. Didn't bet this game, but I could certainly line up the reasons that I would never argue with a Northwestern Wildcat bet here. They're not that great of a football team, minus 8.69 in my ratings. Indiana, 18-34 straight up on the road since 2014, another number pointing to the Wildcats. And Northwestern has won 9 of the last 11 versus Indiana. I almost want to bet Northwestern now that I'm looking at all this. Did not bet the game myself, but every indicator out there is all over Northwestern. The bye week, the Indiana struggles here against them. Indiana's road record since 2014 and the recent series bias. No play for me, though, but I certainly wouldn't argue with anybody that wants to jump in the Northwestern side of things.
Yeah, I'll go. I know the Nick Bogdanovich, one of the great Circus Sports odds makers here in the Sports Betting Hall of Fame. He kind of likes Northwestern here in this spot. Thinks it's just a little too much points for Indiana. Going on to the next game, we have Virginia Tech facing Stanford. Virginia Tech is a 8-point favorite here, total 49. Ray, this is your college here, so let's talk about this one.
So this is, and on the college note, Dan, I'm sure you'll love to hear about this. So in our county and a couple surrounding counties, there is a boil water notice that's been in play for about a week. It's going to stay in play for another week. It's basically due to sediment. It's not bacteria. It's just sediment. So what they do is they get that all taken care of at from the top of the line all the way down the line to all the cities that it feeds. This has been a hot button topic for Virginia Tech parents, some wanting school to be canceled. Just to remind those Virginia Tech parents out there crying for their 18 to 22-year-old adult children to get to come home so they can shower, which at no point did they say you could not shower in this scenario. There's grade school and middle school and high school kids here, some of which lost their homes, some of which still have no power, some of which are obviously under the same boil water notice, and they're going to middle school, they're going to high school, okay, and they're standing up and doing what they have to do, facing adversity. I'm pretty sure your sweet 18 to 22-year-olds can handle a little adversity. Plenty of water on campus, folks. Bottled water being distributed to the students, as well as clean water distribution centers at both Dietrich and Perry Place dining halls. So just wanted to cover that. That's a hot button topic here in Blacksburg, or back home in Blacksburg. So wanted to cover that. VT on the road at Stanford. Ratings here obviously have the numbers, in my opinion, is about right. I have Virginia Tech at a 0.81, so they're just below a 1. I have Stanford at a minus 10.23. Okay, you factor that in, you cook in a home field, and you get what? You get Virginia Tech at about 8. So that was an easy X game for me. I explained how I did that last week. Some of these games I just go through, and if my rating and the odds makers' ratings agree, I stay off the game. Virginia Tech, 4th road game in their first 6, Dan. So they're going to look forward to some home cooking as they wrap up this fairly tough early stretch that they've been through. And this is also, interestingly enough, Dan, Virginia Tech's first true road game ever in California. So pretty cool in that regard. And the only prior meeting between these two teams, Dan, you probably remember this name, or most Indianapolis Colts fans will remember this name. The only prior meeting, Andrew Luck was the Stanford quarterback, and he handed Tech a 40-12 beatdown in the 2010 Orange Bowl. So that's
I'm pretty sure I remember that game too. I think I watched that one.
It was a good one, and Luck was a great quarterback. Of course, I probably stirred up the Colts fans by even bringing his name up with his early retirement. And this also historically, Dan, for those of you that are into historical occurrences, is Stanford's first ever ACC home game. as they play in the Atlantic Coast Conference on the Pacific Ocean. So welcome to 2024 football. Again, I have this game priced absolutely perfectly by the odds makers. No jump in for me. Get all the fresh water you need on campus. If you don't have what you need, call me. I got a well. My water's running great.
Well, my computer seems to be broken here, Ray, so I'm a little frozen. But I'm going to try to restart this. But I'm going to leave you with this game before I try to reconnect here. Alabama going on the road to face Vanderbilt here. We have Alabama, a 23-point favorite, total 54 here. Right, last weekend I was pretty close with that 30-33 prediction. I mean, the total was 49.5. I had that total 63, and I think I should be a bookmaker. But I stand corrected. Alabama, 23-point favorite here on the road to face Vanderbilt. Do you think Alabama covers this big number here, Ray?
So again, another buy bias. Vandy is off the buy here in Nashville. Nashville, obviously, another area that was hit fairly hard with Hurricane Helene. Our thoughts again with everybody in that region: Tennessee, North Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina. I've got family here at the wedding. They're up from southern central Georgia. They're still without power to this day. So certainly a bunch of areas affected here. Look at the ratings. Alabama, I have a 22.03, probably fairly accurate. Vandy at a minus 4.93. That cooks out to about 26. We give a home field advantage to Vandy there of anywhere from 2 to 4, and we land on what? We land on 22.5 as the number. So I think it's a great number here. Alabama 9-0 straight up, 5-4 against the spread in SEC road openers. Welcome back, Dan.
Thank you.
Last time here, 2017, Alabama. I think I read somewhere when I was looking at this game that Alabama felt snubbed or somehow disrespected by Vandy. The only place they would be disrespected by Vandy is in the jobs that their graduates get. Last time here, Alabama seemed a little pissed off, and they stomped Vandy 59-0. Again, that was 7 years ago. And they did, in that game, achieve a school record 38 first downs against Vandy. Clearly, Saban was pissed at something there. He rolled it up on the Commodores. Vandy has lost 23 straight to Alabama. They lost the last three, Dan, combined 148-3. Saban doesn't lose games he's not supposed to. Vandy lost their last 19 home versus Alabama. Their last win, Dan, for those of you looking for the outright upset of the Commodores today, their last win was just after the Summer of Love in 1969. 55 years ago, Vandy knocked off Alabama. God knows what was going on there. Bear Bryant was their head coach. He obviously beat the hell out of that team the next week in practice. That had to be a brutal week to play for the Tide. Shout out Techno Bobo. There is a lot going on in Blacksburg. And as far as the NIL money to the middle school at the half, with this NIL money going to high school players now, we may work a little NIL. I know Young Fox does get a little NIL money from Pops. So anyways, yeah, this game here falls right on my number. Obviously, the straight-up bias flows to Alabama. Vandy's off the bye. Vandy's a very well-coached team. Expect them to use that bye week well here. We're going to see if first half Alabama shows up from last week against Georgia or second half Alabama, because Vandy's a team, as we've talked about already, VT with the win in overtime, the loss to Missouri barely in overtime in a game they very much could have won. Missouri's a very good football team, not far from Alabama, not miles away from Alabama in rating. This is a good football game, so looking forward to it. I'd like to see Vandy hang in there personally, but that's just my little kind of bias. But good football game here in Nashville. Best to everybody there in Nashville.
Yeah, Vanderbilt's got a good quarterback in that kid, and he's really, he runs the ball well, and that might, keep you in this game if you're back in Vanderbilt. So I just, players really matter, I think, and he's been proving this year that he's at least holding his own. Going to the next game here, we have Ray is Clemson on the road to face Florida State. Clemson and Dabo Swinney 17-point favorites here. Buyback in Florida State is plus 550. Now we're not going to see DJU in this game, so this isn't a I would say revenge game because DJU's not playing, but Dabo Swinney might stick it to Florida State, I think. What do you think? What's your thoughts on this game?
I'm certainly not going to argue the fact that Dabo gets up in this game. He's going to keep his foot flat on the pedal. The DJ will be out of the game. That is a little angle here that they're going to face their former. Obviously they're a lot of guy played 2 years, I think, started 28 games for Clemson from 20 to 22. He will not be playing in today's game, as Dan mentioned. Clemson has covered six.
And is going to be the quarterback, the redshirt freshman. Yep. Clemson
has covered 6 of the last 8 here in Tallahassee. The over is 13-5-1 in the series. Last year, FSU won 31-24 in overtime as a 2-point dog. So that could be therein would lie your multiple revenge factors for Dabo here, but certainly avenging last year's overtime loss as a favorite here. So nothing for me. Line seems fairly fair. I mean, these games are always a little dicey because FSU, I mean, they're probably not as bad as their rating indicates. Clemson's probably a little bit better than their rating indicates. So a lot of lateral adjustment goes on with the ratings. For me, it's a stay away spot. I did want to mention, folks, if you my college plays, I put some college plays out for Nuke the House subscribers. I usually give a game or two here on the video. We're going to offer a special right now. This is a buy one get one free special, folks. $99.99 will get you every college football bet I make for the month of October, and you get the month of November. So you're getting at least 8 weeks of college football. I'm averaging about 6 to 8 plays a week. If you break that down, folks, it's less than $1. It's less than $2 a play. So less than $2 a play, a buy one, get one free special, $99.99 for 2 months, October and November of college football. I think if you go on the Nuke the House site, you can see my record speaks for itself, and that's a limited sample size of what I'm giving out on Nuke the House. So if you want to take a look at that, you want to talk about it, hit me up on the Twitter, on the X, at Ray Greyfox, or you can email me at greyfoxhunt. So it's just like my name on the screen, Greyfox, just add hunt at Yahoo. That's a special that we have going right now, 99 buy one, get one free.
All right, and I just put that in there for you, Ray. Greyfox Hunt, right, at Yahoo. All right. And again, I want to thank you for everyone listening to our show right now. Follow us on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. We'll always be very interactive with you guys. We love the interaction. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. And again, you're doing yourself a service by subscribing to nukethehouse.com and getting Ray's bets, because Ray's an excellent bettor here. So it's just, if you want to be a winning bettor, you've got to go to nukethehouse.com. Now, going on the next game here, Ray, Tennessee at Arkansas. We have Tennessee, a 2-touchdown favorite here, 14 points, going on the road to face Arkansas, as I said. Total 56 here. Buyback on Arkansas is plus 380 here on DraftKings. What do you like? What do you like in this game, Ray?
For me, Dan, no official play on this game. Tennessee, again, we've got the bye weeks are starting to come in on us. Tennessee is off the bye. And another team that they're rating, we're probably going to see level out. I got them at a 36.22 currently. That's overrated, quite frankly. Arkansas is a positive rating right now at 5.69, and they probably played better competition than Tennessee thus far. This is the first meeting between these two head coaches ever, interestingly enough. Last time here was 2020. Arkansas got the money. They won 24-13. Arkansas, the Hogs, have covered 9 of 11 in this series since 97. Arkansas has covered 9 of 11 since 97 in the series. Arkansas has covered 5 of the last 6 as a dog versus ranked opponents. So that would qualify here as well. So a lot of indicators on Arkansas. Tennessee's off the bye. This Arkansas team is a fairly decent football team. I mean, they went and pulled off a win as a dog at Auburn, I believe, this year. Tennessee starting to get tested a little bit now. This will be where we see the rating probably drop a little as they play SEC competition week in, week out. No play for me on this game, but again, should be a beauty from down there in Arkansas.
Yeah, all good points there, Ray. I can't really disagree with you there. I mean, that's going on the next game here. We have Michigan at Washington. Let me pull this up real quick. Michigan, I know, is a underdog here. One ranked team versus an unranked team. We have a couple of those instances this week, but Michigan is a 2-point underdog, 1.5-point underdog to Washington. Not pulling up. which is very frustrating. 1 point favorite. Washington, 1 point favorite. Michigan on the road. Buyback on Michigan is minus 105 on DraftKings. Low total here, Ray. Total 40. What do you like in this game? Do you think we're going to see a low-scoring game as the odds makers believe so?
This is a game that I did bet Sunday, Dan. I got a much better number than what's currently being hanging. Seems like Michigan money's coming in all week here. Again, contact me on Twitter. Contact me on the email that's shown in the chat. You can get 2 months for $99.99. If you want this play, that's where that'll be found. The Nuke the House subscribers got 3 plays this week. They got them all on Sunday. And one of those was also included in the article that you can find on the Nuke the House website. This is your Natty Championship rematch, Dan, from last year, 34-13 Michigan. Interestingly enough here, teams like Michigan, they have a lot of what I call draft loss, or a lot of their talent ends up in the NFL the next year. That's Michigan, that's Ohio State, it's Georgia, it's Alabama, it's the usual suspects. Their programs are sort of built to withstand that, and now with the portal even more so. Washington, on the other hand, I think their entire offensive line got drafted in like the first 3 rounds last year. It was absolutely ridiculous. Fautano, the tackle, went to Pittsburgh Steelers. He's out for the season. He's out for the regular season with an Achilles issue. If you're just going off of ratings here, it's a Washington bet all day. Unfortunately, if you look at the competition that each team has faced, that'll probably explain why the ratings are what they are. So Washington 5-10 against the spread when hosting ranked foes. Michigan is on an 11-game road win streak, 9-2 against the spread in those 11 games. Michigan has won their last 4 road openers by an average of 24 points per game. So this one, I just, a lot of signs here pointed one way for this in this game for me. This is a big one. I think I also have an under Washington regular season win total bet. This will sort of be a hinge pin game for that as well. Exciting game, watching it for a number of reasons. Should be a pretty rowdy crowd out there in Washington for this one. Nothing that Michigan is unfamiliar with, though, Dan.
Yeah, all good points there, Ray. Going on the next one here. One of the games that I was on last week. I didn't play Baylor. I can't. Who did Baylor play last week? keep forgetting. Baylor played. I know they won. They were the 3-point underdog.
Correct.
And they lost outright. Baylor. They were playing terrible.
BYU September 28th. They lost by 6 to BYU, 17th ranked BYU.
And they were favored by 3 points. We were talking about the recency bias on that game. So that was one of my best bets here last week was BYU. Going now to this week, we have Baylor, an 11.5-point underdog facing Iowa State. Buyback on Baylor's plus 350, total 45. Do you think we're going to see a bounce back game here for Baylor?
This one I have lined up almost perfectly again with the number. 17.44 is my rating on Iowa State, 3.41 on Baylor. That sets out at about 14. You cook in the home field, you're landing somewhere around the number. The over in this series, Dan, 4-0 with an average of 58 points per game. So we're seeing that 45 number. Iowa State is a fantastic defense. I'll just check my rating sheet right now. Iowa State is yielding 242 yards per game versus opponents thus far. Last 2 years, Iowa State is 3-6 straight up in Big 12 home games. This is probably the best Iowa State team in that stretch. Iowa State is returning 19 starters, Dan. This team is absolutely loaded with returning experience. Don't always take that as a sign that a team's going to drastically improve, though. I want you to look no further than Blacksburg, Virginia, and the Hokies. 20 of their 21 starters returned. They're now a team that I think was projected to win 9 or 10 games based on their regular season win total. They're fighting for their life to make a bowl at this point. So whenever you look at that, don't just say, a bunch of returning starters. I got to bet on this team a bunch. I got to bet their regular season win total over. A lot of times you need to look a little deeper into those returning starters, who they are and what they've accomplished. Not all returning starters are the same, if that makes any sense. And again, I mentioned Iowa State defense is allowing only 242 yards per game, and they're limiting opponents stand to just 59 plays per game. So again, we talked about a little about this last week, but just to use round numbers, If your offense is averaging 300 yards a game and you're running 60 plays, that's not as good as an offense that averages 300 yards per game running 50 plays. It's the longer an offense has to stay out there, the more the negative variance can come in. Now, I don't think a running back's ever been handed the ball and said, I'm going to fumble this. But again, the more times you touch it, the more times you have to handle it. The military academies do well with that because they're very, very disciplined. They practice fundamentals, ball security being one of them. You look at a military academy, they're going to run the ball 50, 60 times a football game. And they're like, they just don't fumble the ball. They're just taught.
If you fumble, you're losing. Yeah. So if you not turning the ball over in naval academies are very pristine, right? You're right.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you can limit a team to 59 plays per game, I mean, what's a good yard per play average? That kind of gives you an idea of what you're going to give up defensively. And the 242 shows that. I have the number on the rating here. I am a pretty big fan of this Iowa State team, not going to lie, this year. But I've been on Baylor in some good spots this year as well. So stay away game for me, but looks to be a good one there in Ames.
Yeah, all good points there, Ray. I just want to switch a little topics here a little quick because last week I was talking about the Heisman Trophy winner. And remember, I talked about Travis Hunter last week being 18-1. Well, that number is long gone. Let me just say that's long gone. So it's now plus 360 here on DraftKings. The last closest favorite I'd say was Jalen Milroe. He was plus 700 last week. Now down to plus 280 after that really impressive performance against Georgia. Travis Hunter again. I mean, if the kid, and they're on their bye this week, so that number it's going to go down, I think, this week. So it's like a stock market. You got to keep, eyeing it. And this is something that I kind of look at. And I know Ray's not a massive awards market bettor, but I find value in some of these because I think I can find good peaks and stuff like that with awards markets. And we did find one last weekend with Travis Hunter being 18-1. So I would not bet him at plus 360 this week, Ray. I think the number is going to dip a little bit because he's on the bye. But I'm feeling pretty good about that 18-1 ticket. I think he's got a real shot to win. Playing both sides of the ball, first of all. Second of all, he's making key game-winning plays. Like that's a criteria I think that's going to be included in this. And they're really going to be like, listen, it's the Shohei Ohtani theory, right? If the guy goes out there, throws 95 mile per hour fastball, strikes you out, and then goes back in the dugout, hits a home run, the MVP, right? I mean, that's just, you can't argue that. So if Travis Hunter is playing both sides of the ball, scores a touchdown, and then goes on the other side, has an interception or like a game-saving fumble tackle, right? He's one of the best players in the country. And I think that we might see this award come down to that. So it's just my little spiel here right before we get to our last game. So I think if you're going to bet Travis Hunter, you're going to wait this week because the number is going to rise, in my opinion. So just had to get that off my chest, Ray. Going back to the breakdowns here, we have Miami. Our last game of the night is Miami on the road to face Cal. This is the ESPN College Football Game Day, I'm pretty sure. Miami is a 10-point underdog here.
10-point favorite. Miami's given 10.
Yeah, Miami's 10-point favorite. Total here.
54.
54. Ray, what do you like in this game?
So great game here. I mean, first of all, I want to piggyback on what Dan said. If you want to talk about value, like I get a game at 8, it goes to 10. That's value, but it's like probably not going to be incredibly decisive, right? God gives you some at 18-1, it goes to plus 360. Are you out of your mind? That's like a sledgehammer of value. It's a massive amount of value, folks. He saw it at the right time. He saw a soft market. That's the key, folks, is to be able to strike a market when it's soft. Again, they put 8 million bets out there, and you don't have to bet all 8 million. But if you're like Dan and you can spot that soft underbelly bet, which he clearly did there, I don't think you're ever going to see 18-1 again on him. I will say this with the Heisman bet. Very rare that a Heisman goes to, obviously a player on a team that has a poor record. So Colorado's they're joined at the hip in this deal together. They can have a season where they finish like they did last year if he really wants to win it. But I don't think there's any question. How do you play two ways? And to Dan's point, you're not just out there occupying a spot on one side of the ball. You're making game-winning catches. You're drop knocking fumbles out the back of the end zone to win games in overtime. I mean, I don't really know what else he has to do except for stay healthy, and Colorado finish with a decent record. I think they need, in my opinion, at least 8 or 9 wins to not kind of drag him down a little bit, where per se an Alabama quarterback that's undefeated could leap past him. Again, that's why I get terrified of betting those. But again, even as scared as I am of betting things you vote on, if you gave me something at 18-1 and it was now at plus 360, I'd ride that one out, folks. Great call by Dan.
Thank you.
Miami at Cal here. Miami's rating, again, another one. If it finishes the season where it's at, the Hurricanes will likely be undefeated in one of the top 2 seeds in the country. Cal, though, with a nice little rating at 11.66. That's not a common thing for them. They're doing a nice job with this program as they transition into the ACC. Cal is off the bye. If that's enough, again, for those of you that look at such a thing, they have had a couple weeks to prepare for Miami. That always helps. This is Miami's first game outside the state of Florida, Dan, in 2024. So interesting point there. Miami 4-9 against the spread as away faves since 2018. 4-9 against the spread as away favorites since 2018. And then Cal defense is only allowing 282 yards per game. And again, highlighting that Miami 4-9 against the spread as away faves since 2018, they've been upset outright, Dan, 6 times in those 13 games. So again, a little different Miami team led by a little different man, in my opinion. Cal, first ever ACC game. If you're a historian, keep your ticket stub, as they say. Under head coach Justin Wilcox, Cal is 12-5 as a home dog with 5 outright upsets. Justin Wilcox, a really good football coach, folks. If you're not familiar with Cal football, a lot of times, the majority of the country, populace-wise, is on the East Coast. They're watching. They don't tend to watch these West. We've seen that with the West Coast non-Heisman bias. Generally, if you don't come out of USC, you're not. You're generally not going to get a look at a Heisman if you come out of Washington, Wazoo, Oregon. Tough places because the East Coast often doesn't stay up late enough to watch. Justin Wilcox is a great head coach there. Last meeting between the two was a 2008 bowl game, and Cal won that 24-17. Again, before we get out of here, Dan, we're right on the mark. Want to thank the folks at the Jackson Park Inn here. They allowed me, I think, to have a late checkout. They'll probably ding me for that, but we'll see. The last people I want to mention, this hotel is actually sold out, and this is not a highly populated area. There's not much to do. There's a little summer league, wood bat league for college players here. That's what this hotel, I understand, was refurbished for. It's a beautiful hotel. The Jackson Park Inn, folks. If you're in Pulaski County, stay there. The reason it's sold out this week, Dan, you may be interested to know, the hard-working linemen in from Maine, as well as other parts of the country, the ones I had some beers with last night outside on the patio, they're all the way from Maine, folks, down here to help people in Virginia get their power back on. They're working on a lot of the rural stuff. They're going to places that other companies can't get to. Big shout out to these guys, man. Yeah, they're making a lot of money doing what they're doing, but folks, it's dangerous work. It's hard work. They're on the road. They're away from their families. So I want to shout out to the Jackson Park Inn for hosting them, and for those guys taking time away from their families to come help the good people of Virginia. Thank you to all those guys.
Yeah, always thank you to the first responders. We were, our world wouldn't work without you. So thank you to everyone who helps other people. And we really, our hearts go out to you, to those affected from the hurricane. I just want to wrap up quick with our best bets. Quick, I know it was a little. Thanks for the shout out for the first responders. But Ray, quickly wrap up your best bet, because I have one best bet here I want to give out.
Yeah, the one I gave out today is Navy. I played them at -8. I'm okay with them -10. I do not recommend over 10.5. Air Force Academy or military academies don't like to smoke each other. So for all those of you that got it at 8, you got the best number, best end of the deal. And I won't argue with 10. Careful on the 10.5.
Yeah, I just grabbed Navy -10 at -105 here at Circus Sports in Las Vegas. Circus is across the country a little bit in Illinois. I'm pretty sure they are, and expanding soon. But one of my best bets this week, Ray, I've been boating the Kansas Jayhawks for a long time, and now I'm off the boat. They suck. I mean, Jalen, the quarterback there is not. He keeps turning the ball over, and he keeps hurting this team. So I'm going to go against them this week. I'm on Arizona State -2.5. It's going to be really, really hot there in Arizona. over 100-degree weather, I think this Kansas Jayhawks team is going to get burnt out, and they're going to get burnt out quick. A lot of people like the over in this play. I'm just going to stick with Arizona State minus 2.5. I think that's best pie eater ASU. Kansas stinks, so I'm just going to go off ASU on this one. So I wanted to bring that up. That's my best bet this week. Ray, thank you so much for your analysis, and have a great college football. Again, thank you to the first responders. Thank you to everyone listening to the show. We really appreciate it. Make sure you follow us on YouTube. Make sure you follow us on nukethehouse.com. If you want to make money, you follow us at the College Football Action Plan, nukethehouse.com. Thank you, Ray, and have a great week. I'll see you next week, buddy.